Hey everybody, this is Steve Kodad of the Feng Shui Cure. I welcome you to the training that leads to the certification for Feng Shui Staging Professional. I think you're going to get an awful lot out of this training over the next several webinars and videos that you watch. And you notice the logo is located on this particular page, and you'll be having this sent to you near the end of the training, and I hope you'll use it proudly whenever you advertise your services. Again, my name is Steve, and I welcome you to the training for Feng Shui Staging Professional. Now, you're going to be doing several live webinars, and in those live webinars, you need to understand that I'll be sending you an invitation usually the day before that we meet, and that we meet from 7:30 to 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And that invitation, you need to make sure that you don't lose it or don't share it. And if I were you, I would try to link up about 5 minutes before we start, and you should be then seeing on your screen the first slide of that day's training. Let me go over a little bit about myself. I was a realtor in 3 states. I actually started in New Jersey when I was teaching and coaching in the Basking Ridge area, if anybody knows that, ever heard of that area. And I did it part-time at that point. And then I stayed with teaching and working in the corporate world at that point, but then I always remembered working in the field and enjoying it. The other 2 states that I was involved with were North and South Carolina. And so most of my experience is with those 2 areas. I've taught for over 40 years in public and private schools, actually at several colleges. I actually taught for several years in the corporate world for AT&T also. I was an owner of a 30-plus real estate agent company in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm a certified home stager. I have several designations as a certified Feng Shui consultant. My first one was with James and Helen Jay. I created and still to this day operate a very unique home evaluation and home staging company using Feng Shui. I'm writing my 3rd book. That 3rd book is Attraction with Feng Shui, Make Any Environment a Magnet. Now, there are a lot of reasons why this training should be very helpful to you. Let me just give you a few of them. One of them is, I hope you understand, you're going to be very unique with what you can offer a homeowner or even a home buyer, something very different and very powerful. You're going to be an expert on Feng Shui, knowing how to use it with real estate. You'll be able to use it to transform your own house or business. You can help your friends and family with situations, whether their house maybe just has a lack of energy, or they're also possibly going to be buying a home or selling. You're going to be able to help somebody build a house using Feng Shui techniques, and you're going to be able to help somebody buy a home using Feng Shui techniques. And I do several times a year have people actually change their career to use this training. Now, this is the first of several definitions that I'm going to give you, about living in harmony with the natural world. And that's a very, very powerful statement right there. To me, it's the best definition I could give you. And you're going to find out that Feng Shui is a lot about bringing the outside in. So it's important that you understand that constantly, that we're trying to create that harmony. Now, we're going to cover a couple of studies I'm big on giving backup studies for information. You'll see more as we get into the training. But here's one that, again, to me, just really yells out the idea of what is helpful about the natural world. This study found out that employees who had an office with a window compared to ones who did not, there was a big difference in their health, including even, believe it or not, cancer. So having that corner office does have a lot of perks to it, and one of them is actually being healthier. Here's another one that took place in the state of Wisconsin, where they actually, by using satellite and compiling satellite data, were able to find out that in areas where the tree canopy was actually 10% or more, that these people were less depressed, less stressed, and less anxious. And the people who actually had a tree canopy less than 10% had all those things going against them and actually were less successful in certain aspects. And they found out that wealth didn't matter at all. And as I am fond of saying to folks, don't panic about this situation, because live plants can definitely help your mood and your health in your home and your office. So definitely consider bringing them in. Now, we're going to be doing modules about live plants. I'm going to tell you particular live plants of what they can do for you, how they can help you, and all of that. So that's a very big part of feng shui, the natural landscaping and bringing in particular types of plants. Now, feng shui is an art or a science created in actually South China. I think of it as an environmental science that just happens to be over 4,000 years old. Anything that stands around that long and is considered to be important and helpful must have a lot going for it. And if you remember reading on my website, my first degree was in mathematics. And so I was a math teacher for a number of years. So a very rational, step-by-step approach. But I found feng shui to be something that works. And that is one of the main reasons why, of course, I got involved with it, that it worked. The words stand for wind and water. Feng is wind, and shui is water. And what's really important about that, those are the two most prevalent ways of actually moving energy around our planet. Feng shui, wind and water. Another definition that you commonly see in particular books is the art of placement. And certainly that is a big part of feng shui, where you put things. But you're going to find out, I promise you, that feng shui is so much more than where the couch goes, where the bed goes, and so forth. Another very interesting thing for people that are involved with real estate is feng shui is found in other parts of the world just under different names. And they may have never heard of feng shui, believe it or not. In India, it's referred to as Washnu, very, very comparable. In Vietnam, it's called Feng Tui. In Thailand, it's called Jui. In Korea, it's called Punzgu. And of course, we in the Far East, Europe, all of Europe, and in the United States know it as Feng Shui. One of the main components of Feng Shui is working with something called Qi. And Qi is spelled this way, C-H-I, but it's also spelled Q-I in some books, so it's the same thing. Qi is our life spirit, what makes you and myself move. It also could be substituted with the word energy. And quite often I would use that replacement depending on who I'm talking to. Qi is everywhere. It's the chair that you're sitting in right now. It's in the floor of your house. It's in the ceilings. It's in your favorite pet. You are energy. We are all energy. Everything is. It's just vibrating at a very different pace. So, a feng shui practitioner or consultant, their number one goal is always to make sure that the qi moves smoothly and is under control. And these two pictures that I chose have a lot of meaning and certainly can be used in your mind to visualize the good and the bad movement of energy or qi. The one on the bottom left actually represents the two bad types. If you notice that the water is too high, it's overtopped the bottom of the trees now. So we have a flooding situation. So something happened to create this excess water. Something very explosive. Maybe a dam broke. Maybe there was way too much rain. Okay? But something too forceful happened, and you certainly would understand that this is too much. This is too forceful, too powerful. So anything that's like that, you definitely do not want to have in your environments. But the picture also represents, after the storm is finished, is that we now have all this water there that is now slowed down to a crawl. It's stagnant. So you try to stay away from stagnant qi and forceful qi. The picture at the top right represents the good type. Notice how the stream cuts through the woods, meandering back and forth, slowly nourishing both sides of the bank. And again, not too forceful. It's moving at its own very, very safe pace. Now, the perfect building site is one of the major reasons why feng shui exists. Thousands and thousands of years ago, many people took into account the surrounding environment where they put their temples or their houses. In this particular site, this was considered a very auspicious site. And they used something called the classic armchair. And the classic armchair is something that you're going to hear about throughout this course. So get very, very used to it. And the classic armchair setup is actually used not only outside for when you're building a house or finding a house that works perfectly for you, it's also used inside for where you put your bed, where you put the couch, where you put your favorite easy chair. So the whole idea is, if you look at the picture of that mountain on the left-hand side, they would want to put their building, their temple, their house, about a third to a halfway up that mountain. They would have their back protected by the mountain. And then on the left-hand side, where one of their arms would rest, you might say, would be a grove of trees or a smaller hill or something like that. And the same thing on the right-hand side where their other arm would rest. So they would have protection on the left and the right also. Now, this made an awful lot of sense thousands of years ago because they really wanted to have themselves protected from harsh climate or possibly even other people. And then the last part of the armchair setup is that you had perfect sight where you could see miles of what might be coming your way. Again, there were people thousands of years ago, even hundreds of years ago, that you had to possibly fear, and they might be coming to take your things, or worse. So it made perfect sense to protect your house, protect it from the weather, protect it from your enemy. So this whole idea has a mountain behind it, protection on the sides where the arms are, and be able to see clearly what's in front of you. A perfect feng shui site has lush trees, plenty of clean water, warm sunshine, and gentle breezes. And I want to sort of put my attention on the gentle breezes because I always have somebody that asks me, well, why not put the house or the temple on top of the mountain? Well, up there, the winds are a lot more harsh, a lot more difficult. And you can't really enjoy that situation quite as much. Here's a picture of the setup that you might see in a book. This is, believe it or not, the classic armchair. You see the house in the middle, and behind it, the representation in books and in feng shui, the philosophy, is a tortoise represents the mountain behind you. Now, that mountain behind you can be a lot of things, including a lot of trees, for example. And then on your left-hand side in this picture, you have protection by the green dragon. And on the right-hand side, you have protection by the white tiger. And then in front, representing to be able to see for a long distance, is the phoenix. Now, feng shui evolved in a lot of different ways, but it evolved primarily with the idea of the topology. And so South China, which has a lot of mountains and a lot of water, was the way it got started. And it got started with respect to even with the way you buried your ancestors. And if you look at the picture, these people would bury their ancestor with protection behind them, protection on the sides, but they had a great view also. And the feeling was that if you did this, that the ancestors would then allow you to succeed more in your life too. Now, there are a lot of different schools of feng shui, and you need to understand that. When you get somebody in your car or when you go to an interview and you're going to be talking about feng shui, they might be talking about a different school. I know that's going to make it a little more confusing for you, but you need to understand that there are different schools, and landform or form school really takes precedence over all the other schools. So if there is a conflict between, say, for example, a direction and putting the bed in a particular location, I'm always going to refer to form school. Now, compass schools. There are lots of compass schools that work with direction. 8 Mansion and Flying Star are just 2 of them. There are many others. There are Western schools at this point that have become extremely popular, and you might hear the term black hat or black sec feng shui. We're going to be using black hat and form school through most of this training, and we'll be referring to the other ones a little bit. Now, why are we using black hat? Well, it works extremely well with existing homes and structures. Here's an exercise with the 8 Mansion school that you might find very helpful. Again, possibly if you've ever had a client that has been in your car or you met at your office and they wanted pointing in a particular direction, for example. They wanted their front door to point southeast, or they wanted their bed in a particular location so that the backboard actually pointed towards, let's say, east, okay? Where did they come up with these directions, you're probably wondering? Well, they came up with them by finding their gua number or their special number. And so I'm going to show you real quickly how they do that. But I need to make sure that you understand. You can find this stuff on the internet very easily. And I'm even going to show you how to do it mechanically here to find your gua number. But again, you can find that all on the internet. And you can find your auspicious directions, which are 4 of them, and your inauspicious directions, which there are 4 of those also on the internet. All right, if you want to calculate your GWA number and you're a female, what you do is you add your digits in your birth year. So an example that I'm using is 1961. 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 1 is 17. And you need to keep going till you get a single digit. So 1 plus 7 gives you an 8. For a female, they add 4 to this number at this point. 4 plus 8 is 12, but again, we need to get a single digit, so you add 1 and 2 together and you get a 3. So this lady's GWA number is a 3. If a female comes out to a 5, they will be looking at a GWA 8. So 5 is a special situation, not only for the female, but also for the male. Now, if you're a male, you add the digits in your birth year and go until you get a single digit also. The example I'm going to use is 1954. 1 plus 9 plus 5 plus 4 is 19. 1 plus 9 is 10. 1 plus 0 gives you a 1. Here's where we deviate, because again, it's a male. We subtract this from 11. 11 minus 1 is 10. We've got to get a single digit, so you keep going. 1 plus 0 is a 1. This person's GWA number is a 1. And if he gets a 5, his GWA number that he looks at is a 2. Now, again, you can find all that on the internet. Okay, that was very, very quick. But I'm going to give you the auspicious directions for all 9 GWA numbers right now. And I want to make a big point about the space holding or the sequence. Okay, so if your GWA number came out to a 1, all right, that means that your auspicious directions are southeast, southeast, and north, and their sequence is important. Okay, if your GWA number came out to a 2, your auspicious directions are northeast, northwest, west, and southwest. If your GWA number came out to a 7, your auspicious directions in the correct sequence is northwest, northeast, southwest, and west. Notice I did not put up the inauspicious directions. I really don't do much of anything with them. I want to know what the 4 best directions are for me. They will help me to where I might sit at a meeting, where I might have my desk at the office or at home, okay, where my bed might be located. But I'm not going to worry about the inauspicious. I know the other ones are not real positive, but I also don't like to get people worked up about them either. So I never make a big deal about the inauspicious directions for folks. Now, as I was telling you before, if you find out that you are best in a particular sleeping situation, and it comes down to whether we pick that direction or we put you in the classic armchair, because of form school, I always go with the classic armchair if there is a difference. Now, if you look down at the bottom of this particular page, this will make a little more sense for you. The first position in the sequence is for a person's prosperity. The second is for longevity and romance. The third is for somebody's health. And the fourth is for peace. The last one is actually the best for getting a good night's sleep. And sleep is a tremendously important part of feng shui. It leads to good health, which is a big part of feng shui, as you're going to find out. And that might surprise you. So let's say you're having some difficulty maybe gaining some prosperity, or your job prospects are, maybe a problem, okay? You might want to consider the first position where you sit, maybe at a meeting, for example. So let's take an example. Let's say your GWA number is a 3, and this is the situation. All right, it would be to your benefit because you might be more productive and assertive and maybe more creative if you sat facing south at that meeting. Okay, that's the first place in the sequence. Let's say you're looking for somebody that is a significant other for romantical reasoning, and that would be your second space. So let's say your gua number is a 6, so you might want to consider your bed position more southwest. Now, I get a lot of people that are really concerned about number 3, their health. And so to me, that is a very, very powerful one for where you might sleep. Or if you're spending an awful lot of time at a desk. Okay, so again, the sequence is important. Those are the auspicious ones. If you somehow lose this, you can find it on the internet, I promise you. So that's from 8 mansions. So again, when you have a client that says, hey, I need to be having my door point to a particular direction, or I need to have my bedroom have this type of light. Okay, a lot of that is going to come from this type of situation. Although a lot of people in your car are going to be looking for the south and east directions also, just because maybe one of their relatives told them they were very positive. I teach this course using what I call the 8 most impressionable moments. And they're very, very impressionable for selling a house, but also for just living in the house. So when you pull up to your house and you're not even selling, believe me, the first test that needs to be passed, the curb appeal, is important whether you're selling or not. It really does make you feel proud and very positive, very uplifted. So I teach the class using these 8 tests. And like I said, they're very, very powerful. Curb appeal, the walk to the front from the entrance to the front entrance, the first time inside in the foyer, the room of first impression. We spend a lot of time with that. The overall impression of the maintenance, and then the flow of the energy throughout the house. And then the last 2 are specific rooms that are the 2 most important rooms in feng shui in a house, the kitchen and your master bedroom. Now, people miss an awful lot. You, I, everybody misses an awful lot when we enter a new environment. We actually really focus on just particular things. And it's been proven that 95% of what happens around us never really reaches our consciousness. Our subconscious takes it in, but not our conscious. So being able to influence the subconscious is very, very important. And feng shui does a great job with that. If you think about everything that is happening around you right now where you're sitting, you know that there are messages going up and down from the satellite down to your computer, to your phone. There are telephone messages that are flying by you right now through the air. There are sounds that you don't hear, but possibly your dog does. There are smells that your dog smells that you don't. But if all these things actually somehow creeped into our consciousness, doesn't it make sense that that would be an overload, that your mind would probably blow up? We were wired this way to be able to take into account what's the most important thing at this particular moment, and then to handle that. So that's great, but we need to keep that in mind when we're trying to sell a house. So if there's an architectural benefit or a specific room or a gorgeous view or anything that adds value to that house being missed and not registering with the buyer, can you understand how important that is? It hurts you and your client tremendously. So we want to make sure that things are picked up, and feng shui does do this by using things that draw attention. Now, feng shui helps with a person's memory, and really nicely, it takes away concerns that, believe me, we don't even know about. And we'll talk about that in just a moment, what I'm talking about there. Now, we've all heard and probably said a few bad four-letter words in our lifetime, and we found out very early in our lifetime that those were not to be said, okay? Now, in feng shui, there is a really dreaded word, a bad word, a seven-letter word called clutter. And you need to understand that it's a lot more than just the visual stimuli that is offensive. There's more to it than that in feng shui. Too much of anything makes a room, of course, feel small. It hurts how spacious it might come off. You already know that. But feng shui is about having room for those new opportunities that are always present to enter into your life. There's got to be room for it. And another really dirty word in feng shui is limitation. A house, an office should be unlimited. It should have great potential. There shouldn't be limitation. So good feng shui promotes things like spaciousness, of course, but it's also creating room for new opportunities to come into us, into our lives. Now, there are two feelings that greatly impact your first experience with an environment, your buyer's first experience, okay? And those are security and comfort. And this is not the security that you might be thinking of. I'm not talking about somebody breaking in the front door or breaking a window to get inside or those kind of things. Certainly those are important and they need to be handled so that you feel very comfortable at home. But there's other types of security with feng shui that are very, very important to give an environment the right feeling. You're going to hear the word feeling a lot. We have all walked into environments that did not feel quite right, and we had no idea why. And in some cases, we left quickly, or at least faster than we expected to. It just didn't feel comfortable. So feng shui handles that. It takes away some of the things that causes this feeling of stress and concern. And once you take care of the security part of it, the comfort level increases immensely. So we need to make sure both these things are in place when we're trying to sell a house. Now, safety and security has been a problem for mankind for a long, long time, forever actually. And sadly, the human race has really not changed a great deal in the thousands of years. We still act very aggressively at times. And so when we enter into a new environment, actually our first thought, even though it's very fleeting and very quick, especially nowadays, is there a threat? Do I need to stand and fight, or should I just take off and flee? You can understand that if there's any indecision by the buyer at this point, that you're going to lose them right away. So if a person doesn't feel really secure, they're going to feel in such a way that they're going to be less focused on what they should be doing, less comfortable. They're going to stay less time in your house. They're going to have very poor recall, okay? Just think about, you've gone into a house, now it might have been something that really got a few chuckles out of everybody. Maybe the living room was painted hot pink. I bet you've been talking about that house now for the last week or so. Remember the house with the hot pink paint? All right, so things will stay with you if you draw attention to it in the right way. So if they don't feel secure, they're going to have poor recall. And if you're living there, you're going to be less productive, and again, less secure. Here's one of the things that you've probably never heard of that causes this type of stress. And you'll be hearing about poison arrows quite a bit. Poison arrows are pointy things, you might say. If you look at the top left-hand picture, the two planters that frame the door, at first sight, you'd say, yeah, that looks great. Well, in feng shui, this would have to be changed. We'd want to change the planters out and make them more rounded, make them softer, okay? There's other things that are wrong with that picture, but that's the one thing that I want you to notice now. Those sharp edges, a person is walking up to the house and the sharp edges are pointing at them and therefore giving off some negative vibes and starting to cause a little bit of stress. So a corner of a house, believe it or not, even the roof line of a house can be pointing at somebody's bedroom or somebody's front door. And that can sort of create a situation where it doesn't feel its best. Top right picture, we've all been in restaurants or even in businesses that have ceilings like this, that have open pipes and all that kind of stuff. And that really is somewhat of a difficult feeling for us in the long run. You might be fine sitting in those chairs for 5, 10, 15 minutes, but after a while, it becomes less and less comfortable for you, and you don't even know why. In the bottom right-hand picture, we all have columns and corners in our houses that do need to be considered. Now, we need to attract them first, okay? We have to attract a buyer. We attract buyers in a lot of different ways magnetically. And I'm going to mention again many times about curb appeal. So that starts right there, of course, okay? But curb appeal now starts a little earlier than ever on our internet. So we have to make sure that our pictures have the correct feng shui feel and look to it. But if you're selling a house and it's priced too high, I promise you this is not magic. Even the Taj Mahal won't have many showings if you're trying to sell it and it's priced way out of whack. So we'll be going over each one of those 8 impressionable moments. We actually have a module that goes through them very, very closely. Now, the number one goal, I think, of a real estate agent or a home stager is to sell their listing, their house, quickly and for top dollar. And there are 2 major ingredients to that, as far as I'm concerned. We want to make it so attractive from the outside that they are compelled. They are compelled to call so that they can see inside. And then we get them inside, and it's so comfortable that they do not ever really want to leave. This whole system of mine is trying to sell a house in the window. I use that term a lot. And of course, the window can fluctuate depending on the market. And in good times, definitely 4 weeks is definitely very doable. And in a bad market, okay, certainly it will increase some. But the idea is to sell it quick for the best price. And as you know, probably, the best price is going to happen early. It's not going to happen 6 months from now. So the idea is to get the homeowner to spend 2 to 3 weeks getting it ready. If they do that using your evaluation skills, then you're going to sell it in 4 weeks or less. So the home's got to feel positive and full of opportunity. You probably never thought about selling a home that is going to feel those things. That's really what we're all looking for. We're all looking for a house that really fulfills an awful lot of our needs. Today's buyers just don't want to work on a house. They want to move in quick. They want to relax, maybe play a little golf, entertain. But they're really not into the idea, in most cases, of fixing things up for the first month or so, or cleaning because somebody did not take care of them. So good feng shui improves our lives by decreasing stress and frustration. Again, feng shui has been around for thousands of years. But I promise you, it works. It creates a harmonious environment, one that's felt by everybody. Your family members, your visitors, everybody's going to feel it. And again, I think of it as an environmental science that generates well-being, a life full of balance, and ongoing success for everyone. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one.